This is
The rational brain only rationalizes decisions the emotional has already made. Considering the story of buying it, this matches how I got the Canon R7. More than 8 months ago, I began researching bodies and lenses to upgrade. Soon, I fell in love with the Canon R7 as my budget, batteries and lenses made it an obvious choice. Yet, I postponed my decision, trying to prove myself wrong and rationalize less optimal choices. Despite that, deep within, I knew the Canon R7 was all I needed. I kinda knew it on a deep primordial level, like the decision came from my heart self, especially when the camera is coupled with the 18-35 Sigma. So, after ultimately buying and unboxing both on the channel, I'll share my reasons for getting the Canon R7 as a content creator and videographer. Frame rates and 4K fine. As mentioned, I got the Canon R7 mainly for video. While it shoots 4K 60, it really stands out with its 4K fine mode in up to 30 FPS, meaning the sensor downsamples from 7K, producing crisp and detailed images. And besides looking great, 4K fine gives plenty of flexibility for vertical content, slider and gimbal shots, and handheld footage. Color science. Color science is another reason I remain loyal to Canon, at least for now. Though this is subjective, I love Canon colors, especially skin tones. I also find them very easy to grade, and with C-Log 3, the Canon R7 captures good dynamic range, which can be pushed when grading. It also offers 10-bit color, which reminds me that the Canon R7 is often recommended as a BCam to the C70 and the R5C. And based on talking to C70 owners, Canon actually wants us to use Log 3 instead of 2, claiming the difference is negligible. Feel free to let me know if you agree, if you have experience with both. Autofocus. Autofocus was one of the deal breakers making me pick the R7 over the S5 II, which I almost got. I simply cannot stress the essentiality of a reliable autofocus. I use a dynamic microphone and a slider and pretty much always wear heads. All the features in the world mean nothing when you film 30 minutes of A-roll, only to find the focus is not on point. Having such traumatic experiences, I refuse to do that to myself ever again. I'll also always remember the smile on my face after getting the 80D, my first body with reliable AF. Luckily, the R7's autofocus is identical to Canon's flagship camera, the R3, so it is a product of years of invention and iteration. Camera app. Being my best friend for filming myself, the camera app is as crucial as the autofocus. Controlling the camera through my iPhone reliably is priceless. Trusting the bracket on my face on the screen, sacred. Based on 7 years of experience, I had no issues with the Canon app. It always worked, even when it wasn't updated. Its only downside is that it drains my iPhone's battery, as mentioned in my last iPhone video. Ease of use. Familiarity biases the perspective, but overall ease of use is another deal maker. It is broadly accepted that Canon menus rival Blackmagic's, which are the most user-friendly. As one-man crew, I prioritize efficiency, so having too many options appearing doesn't really help. With Canon, that is not the case, and I actually enjoy the menus more than ever. Media. Unlike the FX30, which I admittedly considered for a second, the R7 doesn't need expensive V90 or CF Express cards. It's fine using the SD cards I already have, and based on personal experience, they are affordable, reliable, and very long-lasting. Dual SD card slots. Speaking of media, the R7 has 2 SD card slots which are the same. While I learned to stay secure and efficient with a single card, dual recording is a breeze as it creates an additional backup. I also appreciate the slots being identical. IPB. The Canon R7 offers only IPB and IPB White. Based on your setup, this is something to consider. On one hand, the files are more compressed and difficult to edit for the computer. On the other, they are smaller. While having OI or O intro is definitely good, IPB is not a deal breaker as I use a 24-core M1 Max. Battery life. The R7 uses the better Canon batteries, which I find incredibly trustworthy. Besides charging relatively fast and lasting for years, they keep the camera running for about an hour and a half. What's even better is that with the newest iteration, the LPE6 battery provides energy for 2+ hours, or at least it does, unless you use the R5C. Overheating. The Canon R7 has a temperature indication for extra hot environments. This reminds me that unlike the R6 I also considered, and like the R6 Mark II, the Canon R7 doesn't overheat, or at least it doesn't when used reasonably. And based on personal experience, this applies to both 4K Fine and 4K 60. Unlimited recording. The Canon R7 doesn't have record limits. It keeps running for as long as the battery and the SD card do. Then it eventually stops or shuts down. That's it. Truth be told, unlimited walk recording is a huge deal to me. I have always admired the R6, the R5 and the R5C, yet their 30-minute record limit seemed ridiculous, especially on the third, which actually has a fan. Think of that for a moment and let me know your thoughts. Luckily, Canon does not put that on the R7, providing the comfort of focusing on my script rather than anxiously checking the red dot on my phone. Also, let me know if that resonates. In-body image stabilization. The Canon R7 has a 5-step in-body image stabilization. While not on par with Panasonic's, it's still pretty impressive. Yet, it is best to couple it with RF lenses since they have IS2. Nevertheless, it's also remarkable with adapted EF glass as long as you keep it updated, and this is supported by other creators. Special thanks and other creators. Speaking of other creators and hoping I'm not skipping anyone, I'll thank those who helped me pick the R7. They're all excellent at what they do, and I suggest checking them out. Josh Satin, Troy Myers, Bram Coppens, Follane Creative, Mark Wilmos, Camber Film School, Creative Ryan, YC Imaging, Marcel Barbushi, Timo Vehquaia, Antonio Sanson, Royal Z Production, Tony Wyvrick and Matatia. Auto leveling. Mentioning IBIS, leveling my tripod's bowhead is quite unpleasant with an already attached slider or teleprompter. Luckily, that's no longer required as the R7 has auto leveling, which I greatly appreciate. Lenses. As many arguably complain, Canon banned other companies from producing RF lenses. There are also just a few good RF-S lenses which I don't plan to use. Another reason for choosing the R7 is because it couples excellently with the legendary 18-35 Sigma. The 18-35 is a dream lens, providing the full frame equivalent of 28-70, which I really love and I'm very used to. It has internal zoom, phenomenal sharpness and a constant 1.8 aperture, complementing the R7's color sense, IBIS and ease of use. Sensor. While full frame is best, APS-C doesn't bother me. A mistake many make is throwing all their money into the most expensive body to afford, expecting enormous difference. To me, that actually comes fast. First is what and how you shoot, second are the whites, third comes the lens and its filters, and then comes the camera with its colors, resolution and ease of use. Once these are on point, adding motion through gimbals and sliders creates infinitely more difference than a full-frame sensor, and to me personally, the same applies to MoGraph and Titus. Let me know if you agree. Sensor protector. Unlike other bodies, the Canon R7 has a sensor protector preventing dust and particles from entering the sensor, and though not a deal maker, it is an awesome feature to consider. Price. Last but not least comes the cost. Based on rigorous research, the Canon R7 is the absolute king for what it offers for its price, especially in Europe. Some people will point to the FX30, but that actually has a different price in Europe. The same would have cost me about 4,000 euros with 2 batteries, CF Express cards and the 18-50 2.8 Sigma. When I asked the local retailers about the price difference, they told me to ask Sony, claiming Sony determines their prices, which arguably made sense. Yet, after asking them, Sony replied to ask the local retailers, and this could have left a better first impression. Blackmagic Pocket 4K. Meanwhile, I considered the Pocket 4K, which I believe still delivers incredible value, yet lacks face detection, so it was a no-go. The main competitor. The other camera I considered the most and still think is fascinating was the S5 II and later the G9 II. Checking the first live, I felt like I was touching Technics turntables for the first time as opposed to my beloved yet plastic Vestax. On the contrary, its autofocus, overwhelming menus and price made me stick to Canon. Plus, as mentioned elsewhere, I got a significant discount. For the cost of an S5 II body, a kit lens and a battery without a charger, I got the R7, an 18-35 Sigma, a native adapter with internal NDs, a bonus UHS-1 SD card, a couple of UHS-2 cards, a charger and a battery. All of them brand new, so I have zero regrets, but that's just my opinion. Let me know what is yours, such as your brand and your camera of choice. Otherwise, like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe for more content like this, check my other works and books, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for your time.